Okay, we're back. We're live. It's Wednesday. It's 4 to 5 p.m. And what do you think? We're going to talk about energy.
Energy Wednesday.
Anybody surprised? Raise your hand. That's Sharon Moriwaki. She's my co-host, like forever. And Stan Osserman. He's our hydrogen guest, like forever.
I'm loving it.
Thanks for coming down, Stan.
Thanks for having me.
Before we go on, I want to tell you some news. And that is, we take Twitter feed during the show. So ThinkTech does Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at ThinkTech High, H-I. So you can tweet us at ThinkTech High, send us questions and comments, and we'll discuss them with Stan on the air. Or more aptly put, we'll ask Stan to answer your questions. We want to hear what you have to say. After all, ThinkTech is about civic engagement. That's what we do. So send us a tweet today at ThinkTech High, H-I. We're here for you, right? Agreed?
Yes.
All right,
Always.
moving forward.
Always.
Okay, so let's start with identifying what we're doing here. But I think in the process, I think, Stan, you have to talk about the bill.
Okay.
The bill, pending in the conference committee right now this week.
Right
We're
now.
talking about hydrogen. Stan is the man on hydrogen.
Okay, the bill is House Bill 1296, Senate Draft 2, which basically sets up a hydrogen coordinator for the state of Hawaii to work with Mark Glick's office and the Energy Office to focus on hydrogen infrastructure and all things hydrogen in the state. And I would say transportation and non-transportation related. And that hydrogen coordinating office would be my office.
Fabulous.
So it would be HCAT. And that would put me on the hot button for hydrogen issues in the state of Hawaii.
We talked about that bill before. I love that bill.
Yeah.
It's a great bill. It's a step forward. So what happened to it?
Well, it started off as one of Sharon's projects in the Energy Policy Forum, and it got amended a couple times on the House side, and then went over to the Senate, and a couple more amendments in there. They did take funding out of it, which is actually, I don't have a real problem with that. Funding's always a dicey issue in the legislature.
Yeah, but funding's not all that important to the bill, is it?
No, it's not. And really the bill is more of a message to the folks that have already started doing hydrogen work in the state, that there is a focal point in the state now to do hydrogen. And I think that's really the most important thing in the whole bill.
And wasn't there a hydrogen plan that was developed some years back, and it wasn't implemented? So this gives you the opportunity to implement that plan?
Right. In the hydrogen plan, which was developed by HNEI and Mitch Hewitt up at University, that plan had several points in it. One of them was to set up not a coordinator, but an oversight authority in DBED. And so the legislature, one of the first things that came out of it was this overall authority. They scaled it down because, you know, when you have a formal authority and things, you have to have funding to go with it and travel funds and
Bureaucracy.
And so they scaled it back and basically put it into an office that already exists in the state, which is HCAT. So that's one of the good things.
That was a good solution, actually. You know, you get both sides of it that way. But you know, it sounds like hydrogen, you know, has been in discussion a long time. It also sounds like whether that bill passes for funding or not, it seems to me that we are in the hydrogen generation now. We're way further off than we were you know, back when that was considered. And also, if you recall, I know you can recall this, when the hydrogen fund was created for 10 million big ones. Yeah, we're in a different place now, aren't we?
We're moving along. And in my discussion later on, I don't want to preempt myself, but I had a really cool quote in there.
I do that
I'm gonna put the quote out there now, even though it's in there later on. And that is, we're not gonna see a hydrogen revolution. It's gonna be an insidious move towards a new normal. We're gonna see hydrogen come in, you know, along with liquid natural gas, along with more photovoltaic and some wind and some other technologies. And as the Clean Energy Initiative moves forward, you're going to see hydrogens take a bigger and bigger role. So if you're looking for the big hydrogen bulldozer to come rolling into town and making hydrogen available for everybody, it's not going to happen.
You know what, though? If I was governor, that would happen. I'd be down in the legislature with these bills for incentives on hydrogen cars. I'd come up with a credit. I would make very sure that hydrogen happened in transportation. I'd be elevating you to, just sort of
Hydrogen czar.
the Lord, the Lord of hydrogen. Okay, and I would be telling the people it's time to get the hydrogen. Let's have a fungible.
I want to put some campaign money in your.
I'm not ready yet, but I could be. A fungible way to transfer hydrogen
But that's
around
what
the
I
state.
wanted to know
I
from
would
Stan.
get.
I wanted to know from Stan. So you have this task force. This is what this bill is going to do. What will be the first action of this task force? I mean, what things are there already from the plan that you can see are the first steps that we need to do something about to get hydrogen moving?
Well, first of all, the first thing I'm going to wait for is we have the Mark Glick and the Energy Office has started in earnest this year putting together a transportation plan that takes off on the original transportation plan. That original plan that was drafted has been massaged mostly by Mitch Ewan, a little bit by myself, with the Department of Energy, the Federal Department of Energy, to try and lay out the infrastructure for hydrogen for transportation in Hawaii. So we've kind of massaged what that would look like, how many stations it would be, where they would be. And we've already put some traction against that, got it moving. But right now, the Energy Office, the State Energy Office, Mark Glick's folks, they have focused on transportation and hired a contractor, Alan Lloyd, to do a serious look at Hawaii's transportation situation.
Alan Lloyd used to be with HECO.
He maybe used to be at HECO, but he was also with the California Fuel Cell Partnership folks and was very effective and is very well known in the hydrogen and transportation sectors. So anyway, that plan is going to start rolling forward, and in June, they're going to roll out, basically, the Energy Office is going to roll out a more formalized transportation plan for the state of Hawaii.
Oh, that's great.
So what I'm looking at is about the time that this legislation is finished, whether it makes me the coordinator or not, we're going to start working with that plan to go forward from there, taking whatever Mr. Lloyd has in his plan and springboarding off of that. Now, to that end, what I've been doing is I've been collecting a lot of contact names and in industry, in mainland industry, in local industry, private companies, non-for-profits, research institutes, working with those folks. And I have a very good electrical Rolodex full of emails. And when we start talking about that plan and how to put it together, I want to get all the folks in a room, and it'll probably be maybe Pier 9 at the Foreign Trade Zone. We have a state office, a room there we could probably have a pretty good conference in without spending a lot of money. And we'll go in there and we'll sit there and brainstorm. And what I like to do is set up maybe 4 or 5 priorities, not just in transportation, but in hydrogen infrastructure, and sit down and get the naturally occurring groups that'll form around those priorities to sit down together and work through some of the details. And because some will be private, some will be government, some will be non-for-profit, we'll have different plans and different strategies for different things. What I've come up with so far is we've been talking to some private investors, and when I start telling them, oh, well, if the state does it, we'll probably do free hydrogen. They go, because then you're going to put us out of business. We can't do a business case if you're giving it away. So things like that will be worked out. Is the state going to, if the state's going to sell hydrogen, how will we set the benchmark for hydrogen prices? And will we stabilize them for a certain amount of time? And then when the state needs to get out of the business and let the private sector take over, how will we make those transitions? Will we use revenue bonds from like the, I can't remember the name of the program now that in DBED, GEMS, the GEMS program, to maybe help finance some of this? Will it all be private money? Will it be some non-for-profit? The non-for-profits have a different motive than the private folks, and the state probably should help get things started, but then they need to be able to pull out at a certain point. So we'll work through all those bits and pieces as we move forward.
Dwayne Shimagawa, Pacific Business News, tweeted today, said Energy Wednesday is on the air, Jay and the rest of the gang, in a discussion on what's hot in the world of energy. ThinkTechHawaii.com, live on the air.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Hey,
Dwayne.
here's to you, Dwayne. So,
Probably saw the article sitting in front of him. with
right,
his
you see.
name on it.
Hydrogen, right.
What about the article? What is the article?
Actually,
This is
this,
an article by Dwayne
It's
Shimakawa.
transportation.
this outlines, this is an article that Dwayne wrote earlier this month that outlines Mark Glick's June plan and the rollout and highlights it. And I was really happy to see that because, you know, as you know, the clean energy initiatives in our state have been rolling forward on the residential side with PV and doing really well. But on the transportation side, we haven't been doing as well.
Right.
So I'm really happy that the Energy Office is focusing on transportation. We've been focused on transportation. We've got a lot going on. On the HCAT side, we're trying to get our federal funding lined up to do the projects that we do at Hickam, which brings a lot of good technology to Hawaii, so we can then say, hey, this works and this is good, and I kind of look at our office as almost like the Angie's List of hydrogen contractors. I figure out who are the good contractors and who are the ones that maybe aren't ready for prime time. And so the folks in the state of Hawaii know that when we go, yeah, this guy's a good contractor, then other people can go to them and
That's
get
great.
advice and work
Yeah.
with them.
This contractor to do what?
Like vehicle conversions, setting up stations, just different technologies. There's so much innovation in hydrogen now. Hydrogen can be made so many different ways. You can, the cleanest way, the way that we do it at Hickam is off of an electrolyzer where you pump electricity and water in and you get hydrogen and oxygen out. But you can do acids and metals and make hydrogen. You can do anaerobic digesters to hydrogen. You can actually go right from one of the things that I have in the PowerPoint, maybe we'll get to, is there's a new method that several folks are doing. This one is from Virginia Tech, where instead of creating like a fermentation process with microbes, they go right from sugars to hydrogen. They have a way of splitting it out. It's apparently 3 times more efficient than going with sugars to through an anaerobic digester.
Okay, well, I got 3 things then. We got the electrolyzer. Sharon, this is important. I hope you're making notes.
Electrolyzer,
I think she's making notes.
then
Okay, we got the
chemical,
electrolyzer, we got the
acids.
fermentation,
acids and metals.
acids and metals.
Then you can do waste to energy. If you use gasifiers, you can take the syngas, pull the syngas off.
So is the hydrogen plan that you're going to implement, is it the creation of hydrogen, or is it the installation of all of these chargers for hydrogen cars? Or, I mean, what are the main components of
Well,
the hydrogen?
the plan that was originally done with the hydrogen fund focuses on transportation. But what you'll find when you start getting to all these different ways to make hydrogen is you have byproducts. So for example, if you have like an H-Power plant, which does waste to energy, if you take some of the waste and run it through a gasifier, it also turns your waste into energy, and that energy comes out as can come out as hydrogen, among other things you can do with syngas. There's ways that if you want to get rid of sewage, you can use the biodigester models to get rid of sewage and other methanes from landfill sites and turn those into hydrogen. There's you can pull hydrogen out of liquid natural gas, methane, and other hydrocarbon fuels using steam reforming. You can.
So would Hawaii, so in looking at this in terms of driving our economy, would this be that Hawaii would be a place where we would manufacture hydrogen? Is that what, I mean, is what we're looking at, or is it just creating enough hydrogen to power our own selves, or is it something more than that?
I'll give you an example. 2 examples, actually. If you use an electrolyzer to split water, you're making hydrogen, but you're also making oxygen. Guess what we import from the mainland in big bottles for all of our hospitals?
Oh, yeah.
We import medical grade oxygen. We could be supplying, instead of importing oxygen to the islands, we could be making our own oxygen for the hospitals and for the welders and for the industry. When you look at other potential hydrogen using components, like we talk about fuel cells for hydrogen vehicles, but there's also a branch of transportation that's looking at hydrogen injectors into high compression internal combustion engines like diesel engines. So instead of using diesel fuel in a diesel engine, you have a system that basically takes like a liquid methane fuel, a liquid natural gas, puts it into the vehicle, but on the way from the tank to the engine, it sequesters the carbon and only puts hydrogen into the engine. You get better performance than you would out of a normal internal combustion hydrogen engine or a diesel engine, but then you also get a byproduct of pure carbon. And that pure carbon becomes a product you can use in industry. And the example I like to use is, what if you could make a large-scale 3D printer, and right now they 3D print houses and things like that, but imagine industry in Hawaii where you take the carbon that you get from that process and start doing 3D printers of boats and housing components pieces. It's stronger than steel, it's lightweight, and we would be making basically the raw materials here and using them in light industry, the size industry that would work in Hawaii versus heavy industry.
Can we take a short break, Stan? We'll come back and we're gonna get really technical.
Okay.
Stan Osserman, HCAT, that's the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies. Here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're talking about new developments in hydrogen on all levels. We'll be right back. You'll see.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen. I host Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii, and I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring on to this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays, 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
I want to see them live.
Okay, we're live. We're here. You know, did you feel it? I felt it. Did you feel it? It's a feeling of hydrogen all around me.
Like vibrating.
I'm rising.
Now there's a video clip, and your job, Stan, is to tell us what this is all about.
Okay.
But not yet, because we're not going to. First, we're going to list those things that I wanted before.
Okay. What do I got so far?
Okay, we got electrolyzer.
Okay.
That's a way to
That's
create
a clean
hydrogen.
way.
We got what?
That's the cleanest way.
Cleanest
Oh,
way.
we want clean.
But not necessarily the cheapest way.
No.
Okay, then we have fermentation.
Okay.
Is that clean?
Well, yes, relatively, because you can use leftover ag products. So when you diversify our agriculture here, like we should be doing,
Yeah.
and we have like plant
waste.
stalks and leaves and things that we're not going to use, you run them through this process, get some hydrogen out of them, and whatever's left over goes to cattle feed, things like that.
So this is an agricultural play.
It has an agricultural piece
So
to
what
it.
Sharon's talking about, making
Right.
money, we could have guys out there
Exactly.
in agricultural land.
Right. And that's why I say, when I want to get this group together, it's not going to be a group of transportation people. It's going to be a group of diverse group of people that are going to go, hey, I could use that in my plan or my section to help me offset the costs of blah, blah, blah. For example, if you have an electrolyzer, like you said, it's expensive, but you're using photovoltaics. Well, if you put covered parking for your photovoltaics and you rent the parking out, now you have another revenue source. So we need people to think about all those pieces that fit
Okay,
together.
so I'm gonna go further and then we can try to put it together. So the fermentation, okay, and that's an agricultural play.
Right.
And we have metals, was it?
Chemical, yeah,
Chemical-
metals and acids.
Okay, and is this like the aluminum car? You know, where it runs off aluminum?
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, okay, but anyway, is that clean? Is it cheap?
No, and it's probably not one of the ways we'd want to do it here, but if you happen to have another industry here that produces acids and you have scrap metals, it may be another way to make.
We don't
like-
have one, and we don't want one,
Okay.
but okay.
But I mean, if you had a
I'll
chemical
cross that one
company
out.
and a bunch of aluminum cans you need to get rid of, yeah, you could make hydrogen off
Okay,
of it.
what about syngas?
Syngas from waste to energy plants,
Yeah.
from gas fires.
Is that cheap and
It
Available?
gets rid of your rubbish, and that's your fuel for your syngas, but relatively
okay?
cheap. There's a payback on the industrial plant.
That's the waste to energy technique.
Right.
So it looks like, you know, just looking at this, the electrolyzer would be expensive, but it would work. We know it works. Fermentation, I really like the agricultural part of that because it means that people can earn a living doing it on agricultural land. I don't know, can you do that or is it not the?
Sure.
Okay, and then syngas, forget about the metals.
Okay, yeah, we'll skip the metals.
Syngas, that sounds like, you know, we have similar technologies
Sure.
out in Kapolei right now.
And we'll actually be demonstrating the syngas one at Hickam as one of our projects out there.
Okay. So to go to Sharon's question, which I'd like to explore, you know, nothing like money. You can quote me on this. Nothing is like money. So if I wanted to offer some kid, you know, who I pulled out of a co-working space in Kaka'ako, I told him I was going to get him a better life. Yeah? I would tell him, why don't you go to an agricultural area in the island, and anywhere in the islands, and you know, get the technology straight, maybe from Sitar, maybe from HCAP, whoever has it, and start generating some hydrogen, and then you can buy, or you know, somebody can help you buy and finance those tanks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to have a truck full of those tanks, and you're gonna want to deliver them somewhere to somebody who will buy them from you and pay you money
For the hydrogen.
for the hydrogen.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing is, what is a full tank of hydrogen? You know, the kind that you have at HCAP was about 8 feet, 10 feet
Right,
long.
they're about 8 feet long, and those are 5 kilogram by weight of hydrogen at 5,000 pounds per square inch
Okay,
pressure.
there's a lot in there.
There's 2 of them on a truck, and that'll last it about a day for a truck
Okay, so 2 of those per day.
on a
You've
big
got to
commercial
have
truck.
plenty if you want to fuel the whole
Sure.
fleet of trucks. So, okay, I'm this kid, and I use the agricultural fermentation techniques to generate a whole bunch of these things. And I'm say I'm on the Big Island. Say I go to a port somewhere in the Big Island and put them on a barge and I ship them. Where do I ship them to, and who is going at the other end is going to buy them, and who's going to use
Well,
them?
before you start shipping them, and I love Young Brothers and South Brothers, but, you know, let's talk about what you can do with them on the Big Island.
Okay, fair.
You could run your tractors off the hydrogen. There's cell towers all over the place. A lot of the cell companies on the mainland
With
that
fuel
have
cells.
remote towers have fuel cell generators there that have a little bit of PV making some, but every once in a while you need to go replenish if they don't have enough hydrogen being made by their own self-generating. You go out there and load up their tanks for them, so they have it. In emergency situations, emergency generators. In Hawaii, we do a lot of TV production, Hawaii 5.0, all those great shows. They have big diesel generators. They've gotten pretty quiet, but I've known sound guys that did sound for TV, and you can't get quiet enough for those guys. If there's a little hum someplace, they start going crazy.
Yeah.
Just ask the ladies here that
Yeah,
run
we
this
do
stuff.
here in the studio here at ThinkTech.
Hydrogen fuel cell generators,
Yeah.
silent, no noise, very little heat. And you could take those out on a set and your sound guys would be happy as they could be with not only the electricity, but you could do lights from that too.
So I need an advanced man. I need somebody to make some calls,
Sure.
call movies, you know, call somebody, the cell towers, the cell phone companies.
And even the tour companies here that run the tour buses, they love this stuff because they have anti-idling ordinances in the city here where you can't bring a big diesel bus into a barn and leave the engine running. In Alamana Shopping Center, in the hotels, you got to shut the engine off. Well, all their air conditioning runs off the compressor run by the engine. So you have fuel cell vehicles, you just run the air conditioning and it doesn't make any pollution. So that doesn't matter. So
Okay,
the
so-
tour bus companies are there too.
I got my 2, let's say it's not 2 anymore, let's say it's 20.
Right.
I made 20 of those tanks, and how much is each one of them worth? I mean, just the hydrogen in the.
Just the hydrogen in the
Yeah.
tank, anywhere between $25 and $150 worth of hydrogen in each tank.
Okay, so I don't want to have to ship it too far because that's going to eat up my profit. So I want to get it to, you know,
That's
the
why I say
tractor.
stay on the Big Island by the tractor.
Right. Well, the agricultural community can make huge advantage of this.
Sure.
In fact, you know, it's like a sequential thing, don't you think? The first thing you do is you start with agriculture, making a product for agriculture, right? Take it all down the road there and sell it. Let's see. So say 150, maybe I'm building some inflation, but 150. And I'm going to need, for a daily grind, I'm going to need, how many, I don't know what my
Probably about
expenses would be.
200 kilograms worth of hydrogen for
Which
your
is how many
average runner.
tanks?
Um, 40 tanks?
40 tanks. I'm gonna have to
Couple
ship 40
trailers.
tanks in a given day to make, that's a lot of money though, 40 tanks. If each tank is worth 100 or 150 bucks.
Or you
Hey,
produce your
our
own.
business is growing
on
already.
site, right?
Yeah, it's already working
Exponentially
well.
on your on your show.
Now I'm above, I'm above middle class already. I'm making money
Well, we're
here.
doing public math here, so let's be careful. I don't want to get,
Okay, all
I
right,
could get
public-
myself in trouble.
Yeah, public math is no good. Okay, but the idea is there's a market,
Yes.
right, out there, pretty much right now. But
Right.
more than that, if me and my buddy and my buddy's buddy, and we all do this, say on the Big Island, and now we're shipping, 50, 100, 200 of these things anywhere you want on the Big Island, we're in a business.
Right.
And we're encouraging people and companies to buy hydrogen using equipment.
Right.
And does that answer your question?
That does, but I guess the other side of it is, what kinds of equipment can use hydrogen now? I mean, do you have to make major changes to equipment, like a hydrogen car? Is that real different from an EV, an electrical car, or a fuel,
On
a
one of
fossil
G's
fuel
previous
car?
shows, I made the comment, because he's always ragging on me, like, when are we gonna get all these hydrogen fuel cell vehicles down? And I tell him, every time I see an electric hybrid vehicle, I am a happy man. Because when you have a hybrid electric, a generator-driven internal combustion hybrid car, it's 80% of the way to a fuel cell vehicle. All you do is take out that engine-driven generator and put a fuel cell and the tanks in, and you have a hydrogen fuel cell car.
So it's easy to convert what we have today.
A hybrid car to convert a regular car all the way to a fuel cell car is a major undertaking.
Yeah, but if you had a stock car that came off
Right.
using hydrogen, like with the Toyota,
The
was it?
Mirai.
Miura?
Mirai.
Mirai. And we just happen to have some footage of
Oh,
that.
yeah, I'd like
Yeah,
to see that.
that'd be great.
Okay, here we go.
There we
We're
go.
gonna see
we go.
that. This is a ThinkTech. This is what ThinkTech does for you. It shows you footage.
This is great.
This is in response to all the criticism that Toyota's been taking from the pure plug-in folks, like the Tesla guys.
So what's he saying?
Oh, I hope it's coming across. He's an engineer and these are cows. And when he sees a bunch of manure, he sees energy. And so Toyota's starting a campaign called, and look at that graphic right there.
Fueled by bulls.
Asterisk especially.
Bulls. Fueled by bulls.
So hydrogen, or they're saying, Toyota's saying hydrogen from everything. So he's going to the dairy farmer, and right here he says, so what is this? He goes, this is all the manure. What do you see? He goes, manure. He goes, well, I see energy. I see lots of energy.
He's a happy guy.
Yeah. So the farmer and the engineer together, and the engineer's saying, hey, I can show you how this works. So let's load some up in my truck. So he takes his backhoe and his front loader and
Look at
dumps
that
a bunch of
cow.
cow manure
I
in the
said,
back
"Hey,
of
you're
his
taking
pickup
my
truck.
stuff."
And the cows are really intrigued by this and think it's a cool idea.
They feel invested.
Yeah, they're now doing some productive work on the farm. So he's driving this to the digester place that basically it's a big farm that makes methane from digesting waste material. They take the methane, they run it to a steam reformer that pulls all the hydrogen out and gives you a clean hydrogen to go into your car. And then he's going to plug the car in right here. You'll see the nozzle right there. That's how you fill up a car right there, Sharon.
Oh, just like
Just
that
like a
EV.
regular gas station. You
Yeah.
just pull up, hook the nozzle up, lock it on, and the nozzle talks to the car and keeps the pressures and temperatures good. And it fills up just like a regular car. Tosses the keys to the farmer and says, you want to go for a ride on your cow manure? And he says, sure, if it'll work. So the car starts up to his surprise, and they take off driving. And then they're zooming down the road.
All's well that ends well. A happy story.
So, and he talks a little bit in here about how a fuel cell works. So it's actually got a little bit of technical stuff in there.
That's
He
good.
talks about how the hydrogen and the air, oxygen and the air mix together to make electricity. And that's as complicated as it gets.
Okay, well, you know what? It's somehow really interesting that this is, an agricultural experience And we've given up agriculture in so many ways in this state. We could have it back again. We
We
could
sure
offer
could.
There you go.
careers and jobs to people and make companies and everything.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the problem, and I'm sure Sharon is going to ask this if I don't,
Go ahead.
is you have a spiral. Okay, right now you don't have a lot of Mirais,
No.
and right now you don't have any cow gas, if I may.
On
How
the
do you
converter.
how do you sort of turn the heat up on both ends of that equation?
Well, we do have dairy farms.
Yeah.
We do have methane coming off of the Kailua landfill, probably some coming off of some other landfills around the state. And you could start with that methane. That's the same kind of gas that they're reforming. At the Kailua landfill, the city is converting one of their garbage trucks to a hydrogen fuel cell garbage truck. And you could probably make enough hydrogen for that truck off of the gas that's
Right
being
there.
burned off, flared off at the Kailua landfill from their methane.
Okay, but
now-
what do you need? I didn't catch it from the movie. What do you need to actually change the methane into hydrogen?
You need to have a miniature steam reformer, and don't ask me how much they cost. I think scaled down, they're probably a little expensive for a
Okay.
one-off,
Let
but,
me ask you this, though.
okay.
How much do they cost? That's Stan Osserman having a nice day. Stan from
Does
HCAT,
that all
the
the
Hawaii
time, you know.
Center for Advanced Transportation Technology, talking, of course, about hydrogen, new developments in hydrogen here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy, and Sharon Moriwaki and I are trying to give them a good time. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island and ER physician. Every other Tuesday, I get to host a show here on the ThinkTech program about healthcare. We call it Healthcare in Hawaii. It's really enjoyable for me to bring other healthcare leaders from around the state to talk about our pressing issues. Hawaii has long been the health state, but we need to keep up the momentum, the inertia, and with your help and with your participation, we can come and share all of the big issues that are pressing day to day. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday, alternating weeks from 2 to 2:45.
3, 2, 1. Okay, we're back. We're live. It must be Wednesday afternoon.
Wednesday,
You know, in
energy
such good
Wednesday.
company with such old friends. It's really wonderful to be here and explore the future with you, Stan. So that's Stan Osserman, HCAT, and Sharon Moriwaki, my co-host here on Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, talking about new developments in hydrogen, which become more important, more relevant all the time. So now we have some PowerPoint,
Yeah,
and we're going to let you narrate our way through this PowerPoint, Stan.
okay. The first slide, we're in the middle there somewhere, back up a little bit. But,
You don't want
one more.
words. We don't do
Oh,
words
okay.
on PowerPoint. Yeah,
All
we do
right.
Graphics only.
All right, you can go to that one. I'll do the words to the graphic.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what's on that scene right there. What you see in the inset in the upper corner is my battery Bill's 12-volt battery, a motorcycle size or go-kart size that I have hooked up to a little electrolyzer in my office to show people how simple it is to make hydrogen. And what you see in the big picture is what's inside my current little model electrolyzer tank. And you'll notice that on the left side where the black wire is connected to a little stainless steel spiral, there's a whole lot of bubbles coming off of that terminal. That's hydrogen. And if you look at the right side that's connected to the white wire, there's a few bubbles coming off of that terminal. That's oxygen. All you do in an electrolyzer is the same thing, except you put a curtain between the two electrodes and keep the gases separate. So one side goes to an oxygen tank and the other side goes to hydrogen. So that's basically an electrolyzer. That's how hard it is to make hydrogen off of an electrolyzer. So if you have a wind farm or a solar PV array or geothermal or any form of electricity and water, which, you know, I've been told that there's a lot of water around the islands here, but I'm not sure if that's factual. But salt water, fresh water, brackish water, any kind of water. You'll get, if the water's not pure, you'll get other elements coming off. For example, if you use salt water in this electrolyzer, you'll get pure hydrogen off of the negative terminal, and you'll get oxygen and chlorine off of the positive terminal. So after a while, you'll smell a little bit of scent of chlorine in the oxygen. So, you know, but hand that over to some engineers or chemists, and that's what you can do. That's how easy it is to make hydrogen.
Yeah, but if you have an electrolyzer like Hank Rogers does at a Big Island, that's a $100,000 experience.
It can be, but
So-
there's cheaper ones.
Are there? And that's my question to you. You know, we can come back to the PowerPoint. That's my question is it getting cheaper? Why is it getting cheaper? Who's making it cheaper? How is the technology advancing, and where is it going, you know, in the near term, so we can actually use it?
Okay, so for example, there's a company that Hank Rogers folks work with called Millennium Rain, and they have taken that curtain that you put between those two terminals that I showed you in the illustration there, and instead of being $300 a yard for that material that goes between to let current go through the water, but separate the oxygen and the hydrogen, they use a material that costs $3 a yard instead of $300 a yard. Instead of having the plates farther apart because you need room for the oxygen and stuff to move and the hydrogen to move, they've gotten the plates closer together by changing the way that material between how thick it is, how much it's stretched, and how it's framed. You get the plates closer together, you don't have to use as much of an electrolyte like sodium hydroxide or salt or anything and the closer you get the plates, the less of those electrolytes you need, the more efficient the electrolyzer. They're talking about putting harmonics in the electrolyzer to make it release the bubbles faster. So because what you got is plates that are releasing bubbles. If you can make the bubbles release faster, you'll have more reaction on the plates. So those are some of the ways that the technology is getting cheaper and more efficient. So the same amount of electricity is giving you more hydrogen, even in an electrolyzer. So that company tells me that they can do hydrogen at 45 kilowatt hours per kilogram, where most of the time we use 65 kilowatt hours per kilogram as how much it costs to make
45
hydrogen.
kilowatt hours per kilo. That's the same. Tell me if I'm right. That translates to the same cost per mile per gallon as fossil fuel.
Real close.
Real close. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So we're down now in terms of the cost of it to fossil fuel, and we can only get better.
And again, like I say, if you go on the commercial side and you use curtailed power, and you use maybe photovoltaics that are also giving you parking, covered parking, and you lease the parking spaces, all of those are offsets to your and increase your revenue, and that brings the price down lower and lower and lower. So what we need in that consortium, in that group of the people I want to get together, are not just a bunch of geeks with pocket protectors and slide rules, and well, we don't use slide rules anymore, with computers and stuff telling you, you know, how the numbers crunch. We need business people in there, and we need farmers in there, and we need other folks in there that can say, well, here's what we could do. We could do this. We could, you know, cover parking. We could use the oxygen and sell the oxygen too. We could do this.
This is clearly a job for the hydrogen coordinator.
All right, and with that, let's go to the other graphic so I can talk about that one. So the next graphic that we have there, this is the other side of the coin. This is what's in the car. This is a fuel cell. So if you look at the right-hand side of the illustration, the little green globules that are going are hydrogen. And when they hit the anode, it strips off the electron and starts a current going. So when the electrons are stripped off of H2, you get single hydrogen atoms that migrate through the proton, or the proton membrane in the middle, and go over to the other side where there's air and oxygen, and those hydrogen atoms meet with the oxygen atoms and turn into water again. And you'll notice that between the positive and the negative terminal, the anode and the cathode, you now have an electrical current. That current is providing electricity for your battery and your motor. When you look at the far left side of the diagram, what you see is oxygen going in for the reaction and water and heat coming out. So in a fuel cell, you take hydrogen, put it in one side, air/oxygen, put it in the other side, and you get water, heat, and electricity. So in the electrolyzer, we're taking electricity to split water in half to hydrogen and oxygen. And in the fuel cell, we're taking hydrogen and oxygen and putting them back together to make water and getting back some of our electricity. Not all of it, only about 40% of it. But it gives you enough electricity
You know what
to
it
charge a
needs?
battery.
It needs something to translate, to recreate that heat as additional electric energy, because then you'd be more efficient and you wouldn't be wasting the heat.
They're doing that already. That's one of the things when you talked about making it cheaper and better. The more sophisticated models of fuel cells will recapture that heat and reuse it, either in like a car does with a heating system inside your vehicle to heat your cabin, or they'll turn it back into some other form.
This is the kind of thing that moves the needle ahead.
Right, exactly. It's not, and that's why I say this is not going to be a revolution. This is going to be an insidious move towards a new future.
Okay, so the question then, Sharon, I know you're going to ask him this, is what of this can we do here?
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
All of it. Why can't we do all of it, except the acid and metal stuff?
Yeah, we're not going to do that
we're
anyway.
not
That's
doing
a moral question, an
Right.
environmental question.
So for example, and I've mentioned this model before, but if you had, I know Sharon has a plug-in electric car, but I know she's going to want the new Mirai when it finally shows up, or the Hyundai.
$57,000.
Ooh,
That's a
well,
nice
maybe
car.
I'll think
Yeah.
about that then.
But anyway, so
you've
you
got
have
a
photovoltaics on your
charging
roof, and you have solar water heater on your roof, so you're efficient, like my friend Ray Starling would say. You go for the efficiencies first in your house, put solar water heater on your roof, and you put solar panels on your roof. You're making electricity all day long, but instead of connecting to HECO and giving them all your power and selling it to them, you make hydrogen all day long. And whatever you don't need in your house, you make hydrogen and store it in a tank outside your carport at maybe 200 PSI, 300 PSI, a low pressure tank. You come home at night, the sun's not out anymore. Your PV's not working, but you got some batteries storing energy to send in your house. You drive your fuel cell car into your house. You plug your house into your car. Your car has more than enough power to run your house. Peak load, everything. So
But what's happening is the hydrogen is going, the hydrogen, you created that off the roof.
is sitting in your tank
Sitting
in
in
the
the
back.
tank.
So now, instead of plugging in your leaf,
Yeah.
you take a high pressure, low volume compressor,
Yeah.
and all night long, you pump little tiny spurts under high pressure back into your car, all night long from that tank outside your house.
Okay, so you're filling the car.
You're filling your
But
car.
how do you get the energy from the car to the house again at night?
It's like plugging in your leaf.
Oh, you're getting it
Just
off
like
the
a storage
battery in the
battery.
car.
Off your fuel cell and your battery. in
And
your car.
fuel cell and the
Yeah.
battery.
And the only reason you need a battery in your house is to kind of help when if you get home late and the sun's already down and you need to have some storage at your house so that you can carry over between the time you get home and plug your car into your house in case you get home late because you're out having
We need to have a
reception
facility
with-
like
with
this, a
Jane.
proof of concept facility. But I
Are
agree
you
with you, this
volunteering?
can be done here.
You're gonna volunteer your house for that?
I don't have any solar panels in my house. Maybe it's-
I'm gonna
you
stick
said
Ray
that in
Starling on
public,
you.
yeah.
I'm gonna sick Ray Starling on you. But that
So are
that
there
would work.
companies doing that now, the conversion part? Are there any companies in Hawaii
Yeah, yeah.
that play
Not
with
in
that?
Hawaii. There's none in Hawaii doing it.
Okay, but we
It'd
will.
be the perfect market for that young guy, instead of being on the farm and doing the digester, starts coming up with he gets his engineering degree, and he comes to your house, he goes, well, you use about 30 kilowatt hours a day, and you need so many solar panels, and your peak load is about this much, so you gotta have at least that much. You need about this much storage, and your car provides the rest. Here's the math, here's what you need, here's how many panels you need. There you go.
And
Mr.
here's the end of
Homeowner,
our
and
show.
there
We're
you
out of
go.
time.
Already?
Stan, again,
You have more PowerPoint?
frittered away another 45
Nice
minutes. So Stan
PowerPoint.
Osserman of
You have
HCAT,
to come
Hawaii
back.
Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies on Hawaii, the state of energy, new developments in hydrogen. It's been great having you as always.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.